You know who it is, Don Castaneda, expert life coach, recovery coach, intervention professional. And this is your intervention. This is what I want to say about the war on drugs, right? They call it the war on drugs because it's a war. It's a war. We're in war. If y'all haven't realized by now, hundreds of thousands of people have already died, probably a million over the past 10 years, maybe 10, 12, 15 years, whatever. But about 100,000 people have been dying since the pandemic started because of isolation, people doing drugs, overdosing, fentanyl started being laced in drugs more frequently. And 7 out of 10 pills are counterfeit with and laced with fentanyl, right? There's a lot of fake pills. There's a lot of counterfeit pills and laced pills and laced drugs and laced weed and laced cocaine and meth and all that. So no matter what you think you're getting, there's a 70% chance that it's going to be laced with a deadly drug and you're going to die. And so the rate's going down due to education awareness, right? We're educating kids in schools. The younger generations are learning. They're being able to say no. They're getting this awareness and education now at an earlier age. And some of them are doing the right thing, just staying clean. But so it's gone down from about 120, 114,000 people a year, 114,000 deaths a year from fentanyl and drug overdose, down to like 70, 80,000 a year now. And it's taken a little while to get there, but it's got there. So, it went down slowly, kind of like decreased sharply, but 70 to 80,000 people is still a lot. People might think, oh, that's good. It's not as bad as 100,000 or 114,000, whatever. But at the current rate, right, 70 to 80,000 people dying every year from fentanyl and drug overdose. If you take 70,000 or 80,000 people, you line them up or you pile them up, that's a shit ton of people. That's a lot of people. That's a long line. That's a probably miles long people, right? 10, 20 miles, however long, that's a lot of people. And imagine if you just mowed them down with a shotgun, or you killed them execution style in a ditch, or if this cartel's doing this, and if the cartel was lynching them, if they were hanging them from trees. So if you saw 70 to 80,000 bodies hanging from trees, right? That'd be these young teenage girls, these young adults, men, women of any color. They're indiscriminate, right? Sometimes children, babies die from fentanyl exposure sometimes. So imagine that they were lynching them, hanging them, shooting them in the back of the head, execution style, in a ditch on their knees. Something heinous, right? Dismembering them, cutting off their heads, and throwing their heads in the dumpster, or maybe hanging their dead bodies from a bridge, like the cartel does in Mexico, naked, right? So if the cartel's doing this, people would be like, "Holy shit, what the fuck is going on?" But because they're just using drugs, it's a silent death, right? They just go to sleep and die. And they just be like, oh, it's the news and the media and the government just like, oh, it's just an overdose. They shouldn't have been doing drugs. That's what they always say. Now that they see innocent young teenage girls are being manipulated by the cartel, controlled, just brainwashed by media, all these, movies about doing drugs and how it's American and how people just want to have fun and party and all that bullshit. Well, people are susceptible to those, kind of that mindset, or these brainwashing techniques, or this fantasy that just to be happy all the time, be high, and party and all that. But now that the government sees that, they say, okay, what they got to do is start doing something. And that now they're trying to control the border, control the flow of drugs, stop, the cartel, label them domestic terrorists, whatever. But that's still a shit ton of people dying every year. And it doesn't look heinous. It doesn't, like, they're not cutting up their bodies and stealing the organs, or, all that stuff. But because they're just using fentanyl, these victims, 70 to 80,000 American citizens a year are the victims. They just go to sleep and die. Their families still suffer the consequences. They still have to pay for the funeral, go to the funeral, and never see their family member again. But because it's not so violent, it's not in the news. It's not like a huge thing in the news. I don't see it in the news. I see a bunch of other stuff about Iran, Russia, tariffs, and Donald Trump speaking at, all that stuff. But it's I don't see. It used to be discussed a little bit Just like cigarettes. Cigarettes aren't discussed in the news. I don't see it. I watch the news, CNN, Fox, whatever, CNBC, all these different channels. They're not saying, look, 500,000 people die from cigarette smoke, from lung cancer. And they're dying from this every single year. Alcohol deaths from car accidents, domestic violence abuse, domestic homicide, from alcoholic, drug addicted boyfriends or whatever, enraged in a fury, or they black out, whatever, from alcohol. And cigarettes, that kills 480,000 people a year, almost 500,000 people a year. Because they over a long time, over 10, 20 years, they just get cancer. So with fentanyl, that kills 70 to 80,000 people a year. That's a lot, but that's not discussed because they just, I guess they consider it, well, the addict should not have been doing drugs. Well, understand this: we're at war. This is a war. If you have to have the mindset, your family, whoever, if you're a drug addict, like I was a drug addict, you gotta keep in mind that these people are the enemy, right? If you're a soldier, you consider yourself a good guy. Now, if you're a devil worshiper or Satanist or whatever, I mean, you're gonna get what you got coming. I don't know. You're gonna go to the dark side. You're gonna whatever you believe in. I don't know. But if you feel you're a good person and you want to be a good person, take care of your family, be noble and honorable, and trustworthy and reliable, and have discipline and take care of your family. You're gonna want to do the right thing, and you should have the mindset that these people are the enemy. If you're a Christian, if you believe in God, and you believe Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and you're just having this trouble with drugs, understand that Christians have enemies, and you have to know who they are, and you have to be aware of them, be wary of them, and stay away from them. Right? If you're a Christian, you're not gonna want to kill anyone, but if you're a soldier, some people would say, like, if you're a true soldier with PTSD, you'd kill an enemy on the spot, shoot on sight. You see them, you kill them as soon as you see them. If they're the enemy, right? So that would be like a drug dealer could be considered that for a soldier with PTSD. I think that's very rare that happens. But if you're a Christian, you don't want to hurt anybody. The next thing, it's either fight or flight. You're either going to punch them in the face, fight them, take their stash, throw it, call the cops. All that stuff is considered like fighting, or flight. Really, the best option is to flee, right? Flee the scene, run away, call the cops, tell them they're trying to sell you drugs, all that stuff. Give them their number, give them the address, give them photos if you have them, give them any information you can on them. Keep them away from you, because if you don't fight in some way, if you don't flee in some way, you're just going to be controlled and manipulated. They're going to hit you up. You're going to be like, okay, yeah, somebody said, here's some money, got some drugs, I'm going to get high later. And you go home, you get high, you're just dead. You wake up dead. You don't wake up. And your family sees you dead when you should be just asleep and wake up. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot more frequently than you think. I see Texas pictures, documentaries all the time. Every day there's new families coming out saying they lost a child, they lost a brother or sister, mother or father, sister, aunt, cousin. So you don't want to be that victim. You don't want your family to be one of those victims. If you're a family member of a drug addict, you have to step in. If you're the father, if you're the mother, you have to intervene. Hiring an intervention can be expensive, right? I'm an intervention professional. I know how to do it. I know how it's done. But really, it's common sense. Like, look up the definition. Just step in. Start saying what's in your heart. Start saying you need to get clean. Start saying we're going to rehab. We're taking you to rehab. Get in the car. You got to do your time. 30 days in rehab. Get clean. This is a job. You got to list it out for them. Give them something to do. This is what you're gonna do this day. You're gonna go to the gym. You're gonna go to work. You're gonna get some coffee. You're gonna go home. You're gonna study your job. Get better at it. Get those promotions. You're gonna get your own apartment. You're gonna eat right, diet, exercise. These are the vitamins you're gonna take. You're gonna take AG1, a healthy drink. You're gonna eat smoothies every single day. You're gonna do the right things. Take care of your family. If you want to have children and all that stuff, or if you already have children, you're gonna take care of them. Take them to baseball practice, band camp, chess camp. You're gonna teach them things. You're gonna take them hunting, fishing, all that good stuff, right? Movies, golf, mini golf, all that stuff. So, arcades, all sorts of cool stuff, malls and stuff. There's so many things to do when you're sober, clean, and competent and you're aware of reality, right? When you're drunk and high, when you're drunk or high, or drunk and high, you know, nothing makes sense, right? You feel good because dopamine receptors are going off, whatever, but it's not accomplishing much, right? The only reasons that some people like can have an excuse, I guess some people call it an excuse to escape reality. If you want to escape reality, uh, you you know, one of the reasons why I guess it's okay is maybe if you've been severely traumatized, right? Because even if you're severely traumatized, whether it's sexual trauma or like near death experiences, or maybe you killed someone in self defense or something like that, like super traumatizing, right? Just thinking of life and death and all this crazy stuff, uh, and maybe religious crisis or whatever, like psycho spiritual crisis. But even then, you should get like they microdose. There's doctors that microdose LSD or microdose shrooms, and you could go on a journey. Like if you do maybe like a gram of shrooms or something, but you need medical oversight. You need medical, attention and medical supervision while you do this, or someone who's experienced it and can babysit you because they want to make sure you don't kill yourself, that you eat and drink water, that that you don't die, that you don't start eating your shit or something crazy. So you want to make sure you have supervision if you go on a journey. Don't do too much, but if you choose to get high on your own, say alcohol is your poison, or maybe some pills or weed or something, right? Maybe if you turn to hardcore drugs like coke or meth or heroin or whatever, if you're severely traumatized, there's a chance, like there's always a possibility that your brain can benefit somehow from that. If your whole life has sucked, right? That's the only pleasure you've ever felt your whole life, and you're like, hey, this is better than this fake reality is better than actual real life for me. So for in my case, it probably wasn't that extreme, but I can understand like some foster kids are extremely abused. Some people have had there's some young girls that have been raped by their fathers, and some people are really traumatized, for different reasons, right? Cops can be traumatized because they killed an innocent person that looked armed, but they were unarmed or something like that. So, for me, some people can use it as punishment or use it as a way to kind of rethink things and to get like a different view, a different perspective on life. But it's addictive and it's dangerous because it's hard to stop. So, you want to just understand any addict out there, know who your enemies are, know that there's drug dealers out there. They are trying to kill you. You don't want to go to prison. You don't want the cartel coming after you in retaliation. So you don't really want to kill them on sight. You don't really want to maybe fight them or whatever. But they'll understand if there's something really going on. If you really want, if you have a vendetta, if you really want revenge, you don't care if you live or die. They did something to your family. That's your decision. You do what you feel is right. But for the most part, running away is one of the best decisions for most people, right? Most people that aren't in an extreme situation, you see a drug dealer, you know who they are, you've been in communication with them, just tell them you're going to quit doing drugs, you don't want to see them anymore. It's that simple. If they keep contacting you, hey, we got drugs, come on. They want your money. That's how they make a living. That's their bread and butter. That's what they say. It's my bread and butter. That's how they make a living. That's how they pay for their apartment, how they pay for their food, basic necessities. A lot of drug dealers aren't really rich. Some of them don't even have vehicles, and they live with their parents or maybe a friend or in a boarding home or something. They split rent, right? A lot of drug dealers aren't too well off from selling drugs. The ones at the top might be, but the ones at the bottom, they got to find a bunch of fiends all the time. Sell $20 hits. They might make a few dollars, maybe $10 or $15 per $20 that they sell, but they got to do that 10 times a day, And then when the drug fiend dies, they lose money, right? And they don't really care because they just find new fiends, right? The world's a big place. In the big cities, you're gonna find a lot of fiends, right? Facebook's a big place. Snapchat sells a lot of drugs. Kids die on Snapchat from buying counterfeit drugs. Snapchat, it's a place for predators, right? It's a playground for predators. Facebook is the same way, and they're not doing too much moderation. They do some, they could do a lot more with the amount of financial resources that they have, okay? So you got to understand, if in my mindset, I consider myself, I'm a Marine, so I'm a soldier. I know how to fight for the most part. I choose not to, for the most part, because, it could get me in trouble in the civilian world, right? So for the most part, I have to hold my tongue. I have to, hold myself back. I can't do a lot of things that I should do, really, to protect society or protect women and children or whatever, because the cops, will arrest me and take me to a psych ward to be drugged up until I go retarded and until I die, and just be abused and mocked and ridiculed and humiliated. So I've been through that, and for the most part, I just have to be like, well, leave it up to the cops, But the point of this video is to just know that there is a war going on. 70 to 80,000 people dying, American citizens dying every year, including women and children, and young teenagers, young adults, just because they're not being shot in the back of the head, execution style, on their knees and buried in a ditch, or just because they're not being beheaded and decapitated or dismembered and their body parts sold or whatever, or hung naked from a bridge, right? Just because all that's not going on doesn't mean it's not heinous, right? Drugs, fentanyl, they're still just going to sleep and dying, right? It's not violent. So the government doesn't consider it. They're like, it's not that big of a deal, but it is, right? No matter how they die, it's a premature death, right? If it is premature, and that's what fentanyl is, they're taking half their life away. If they're 40 or 50, but a lot of these 20-year-old young adults that are dying, they could have had 80 years left if they lived to be 100. 80 years, right? The average lifespan is around 80 years. So if they were 20 and they died, they had 60 years ahead of them. 60 years to live a full life, have a wife and children and family and kids and a lot of friends, and make a difference, a positive impact in people's lives, and to spread kindness and peace and love. And that was taken away from them, from these cartels. And that's the kind of sick thing about it, is just that it's so easy to just smuggle in, fentanyl from China and India, right? Because I've seen it. I've seen documentaries where you could just order it from a website, from the dark web. You could go to the dark web, the onion router, go on the dark web and type in, if you know where to go, look up marketplaces. You could just have fentanyl shipped to you, like an ounce of fentanyl, for like maybe $400, $300 or $400, after shipping and taxes or whatever. But it comes from China or India, and they'll send it to a PO box, and they wrap it up so it's not smelled by the canines, and they do certain, wrap it up a certain way, and that's how it's been getting in. I don't think the technology's increased. I don't know if they're doing X-rays at post offices now. A lot of stuff goes through. A lot of stuff gets through the post office, right? Through the mailing system. That's how a lot of criminals get away with things. And that's how money gets transferred, drugs gets transferred, and still does to this very day. And that 1 ounce of fentanyl can kill 50 to 100,000 people at least. So when they cut it up, they just want people to get addicted, and it is addictive. But when they don't cut it enough, then some people can't handle it. A lot of people have low tolerance levels, and they just die from it. They just can't take it. Their body can't process it fast enough. They just stop breathing and go to sleep and die. And so I have my theories on that, but that's how it's done. And any drug dealer, they could be white, black, Mexican, Chinese, whatever. They could be in any gang, or just a drug dealer, civilian, whatever. Just someone trying to make money. Because when you get an ounce of fentanyl and it costs you $300 or $400, you could turn it into $100,000 cash. You could flip it. You can make $100,000. Obviously, and for people to know that it's not good, it's on documentaries, which is the only reason I'm saying it. But a lot of people need money. A lot of people want to make money, and they want people to get addicted to their drugs, whatever it is. whether it's heroin, fentanyl, meth, whatever, or crack or whatever, they lace it with fentanyl. And that's just one way to get people addicted, to turn $300 or $400 into $100,000 cash on the street. And that's what a lot of drug dealers, that's their intention, right? So, I don't know how much they can make from coke or meth or anything like that, but this was just a documentary I saw. So obviously with any drug they can make a lot of money, because you buy it for very cheap in bulk, and then you sell it for a little bit more, to drug dealers who have their own drug fiends, and it's just a whole chain, right? So, understand there are the cartels out there, drug dealers out there, and they want you dead. They want to kill you. If you don't think like that, even if that's not true, even if they want you to just party and have a good time and have kids, I mean, how is that? If you party and you have sex and you have kids, they're gonna want to keep making money selling you drugs. How are you gonna take care of your kids if you're all fucked up on drugs? You know. So if it's a one-time thing, just to I guess have that moment, just it has to be that. You can't do it anymore. But they're gonna keep coming after you for more and more. So understand that if you have to think they want you dead, because if you don't, you're gonna go to them and be like, hey, we're just gonna party. But if you go to them and you see them, and if anyone's trying to sell you drugs, you gotta automatically be like, this person doesn't care if I live or die. Because do they test it in a laboratory? Do they test it for fentanyl? Do they test it for contaminants or things that shouldn't be in there? Probably not. They're trying to sell me drugs that they didn't test. They have certain things that you could test, little test kits, but first of all, you don't know if there's antifreeze in there. You don't know if they just want you dead. They're trying to, because antifreeze will fuck you up. That'll destroy your organs. You'll die a slow death. It'll take you months to die, but you'll eventually die. Even if you just drink a little bit, it fucks up your organs bad. And it tastes sweet. So it's deceptively sweet. Antifreeze is deceptively sweet. A lot of some women kill their husbands that way. And even some women, like I've heard a story where some women commit suicide that way. But you don't know what's in it. You don't know if there's antifreeze. You don't know if there's cyanide, rat poison, insectant spray, whatever. You don't know, what they put in it just to experiment. If they don't like your behavior, your attitude, your demeanor, your race, they might be racist. And then you buy from them, and it's whacked dope. It's mixed with some shit that shouldn't be in there. That's gonna fuck you up. It's gonna make your teeth fall out, fuck your skin up, fuck your brain up. And people think that drugs is fun. Like they think I'm a Debbie Downer, negative Nancy or something. But if you saw like on an MRI what drugs does to your brain, like on a molecular level, if you saw what it did to your limbic system, like destroying it, shrinking it, eating the cells, the how it's killing brain cells, killing molecules and killing cells and destroying your organs, and just messing up your heart, speeding it up like 10 or 20 or 100 times higher than caffeine, where it's just putting so much strain on it. Obviously that's why it causes heart attacks sometimes. And then you're tripping, you're sweating, you have all these toxins, your body's trying to excrete them. It's extremely, extremely unhealthy. For me, doing a complete 180, taking protein drinks, going to the gym, working out, eating like fish, taking my vitamins, eating salads, eating vegetables, all the healthy stuff I'm doing, I look back and I'm like, damn, that shit was so unhealthy. It's just unhealthy. Like, even if you want to get high, that's unhealthy. There's other ways to just smoke weed. If you really want to get high, just smoke weed. That's probably the healthiest thing you can do. I shouldn't say that. Like, I still don't recommend it. But for me, that's the last thing I did before I quit everything. I'm like, okay, I'm just messed up. I figured, I was like, I just needed something therapeutic grade. That's not this hard messed up drug. It's gonna make me feel sick or anxious or psychotic or whatever. All these other drugs, alcohol, DXM, cocaine, heroin, all this bullshit, right? Like weed's pretty much probably the best drug, because just on the weekend, right? Saturday or Sunday, smoke one. Probably Saturday, because if you smoke Sunday, you still got work in the morning. So maybe Friday night, Saturday, if you work, and then if you really have to, it's a way to unwind or whatever. It's natural, you know. It kind of gives you a different perspective, helps you think deeply, whatever. For some people, it helps them meditate, you know, and just have a different perspective on reality. And it's just a way to, you know, detach yourself from the stresses of work and stresses of life and all that. But I mean, if you're really addicted to anything, you could get weed at a dispensary, and it's a lot less likely to be laced with fentanyl, right? Because it is government regulated or something, I think. You just go to a dispensary where they sell it pretty much in a shop, you know, and don't buy it on the street. Don't buy it on the street. If you buy it on the street, there's a much higher chance you're gonna die from fentanyl poisoning. You know, if you want to do something, don't even drink alcohol. Smoke weed, you know, just a little bit, like, you know, a gram Friday or Saturday. But for me personally, I'm never gonna do that. I'm just saying, if you're so addicted, that's called that's called like tapering off, right? It's called tapering off. It's called uh, it's like harm reduction therapy, I believe. And so it's just like, well, you're not quitting cold turkey. Your body's not going into shock. um, Harm reduction. So your body, if you don't want your body going shock from quitting cold turkey, you kind of wean off and slowly, taper off and wean off. So, some people do like methadone or whatever, but weed can help, I guess. It's not really that bad. It's just like, have some supervision, have someone sober around so they could just monitor you, so you don't trip out or go paranoid or hurt anybody. Because even weed, some people get psychosis, and even weed, marijuana, hydrochronic, some people have killed people. I've seen the stories and I've seen in the news. I know people that have been to court for that. And there's a woman, she's real famous. She stabbed up her boyfriend. She had a psychotic break, a psychotic episode, whatever you want to call it, just on weed. It was very powerful, and put her in a state of psychosis. So you want to be real careful with that. So any drug, right? But just understand, there's ways to have to mitigate and kind of reduce, like, the harmful effects of just being a drug addict, right? If you're a drug addict, you're gonna seek drugs. It's not your fault. You're just addicted. You have that nature, addictive personality, whatever. Um, don't get it from a drug dealer. They're trying to kill you. You're at war. If you're a Christian, these are your enemies, right? They want to see your downfall. They want to harm you. They want to put poison in your body. They don't care if you live or die. They're not your friends, right? Um, get weed at a dispensary if you really have to do something. If you really need therapy, if you've really been traumatized or abused as a child or whatever, you just need some therapeutic, effects. Maybe microdose some shrooms. I guess go on a journey. They call it a journey, I guess. But be real careful with that. Have supervision. Have someone that's experienced that can supervise you, or go to some state where they might do that in a facility. I don't know. Um, and then even LSD. I think there might be microdosing LSD if you're really traumatized. But if you want to just do a complete 180 like I did, just stay clean from everything, right? You can do it. You can be strong. Whenever you feel like you're kind of anxious, or you want to take that hit, you want to get high or whatever, run for 10 miles. Run for 5 or 10 miles. You'll release endorphins. You get a runner's high. You'll feel really tired. You're not going to want to get high after that. You're just going to want to drink water. Maybe eat and go to sleep. You'll feel better. You'll be healthier. Your heart will be stronger, right? Do something mentally stimulating, mentally challenging. Read a book that's difficult to comprehend and understand. Read something sophisticated that's going to make your intelligence increase, right? Certain things, how to play chess, psychology, behavior things like behavior, psychological, aspects of humans, something like that, right? Understanding the body language, reading people's facial expressions, reading between the lines of what people say, stuff like that. There's a lot of different things like body language and human, interaction that you can learn from. And just, that's some military intelligence officers, have to go through this training so that they can understand people on the street and well, their enemies in other countries and stuff like that. But you can also, take it to the civilian sector, understand when someone's trying to bring harm to you, bring drugs into your family's lives. Because it might not even be you. You might not care about your life. But if there's drug dealers out there and you're a father or you're older or you're the mother and they're bringing, there's drugs in the neighborhood, well, they're going to go after your kids. And if you don't think that's war, I don't know what you think war is, but they're trying to kill your kids. So to me, that's war. And they, like I said, they might not be shooting them, cutting them up, hanging them from a bridge naked, but they'll put them to sleep like a dog. They'll just euthanize them. That's kind of what it is, euthanization. And they weren't even sick. So, that's the sick part about it. And understand that it's war. And if you don't take action, obviously, the government doesn't claim that. The government doesn't claim it's a war. They call it the war on drugs, but they're not killing all these drug dealers. They might send them to prison or jail. That's not really like a real war. People, the only people are dying are the victims, right? The drug dealers, they're not getting shot or to the death sentence or anything like that. So the only way for the parents to protect their children would be to go to war with these drug dealers. And really only the way to do that is to have like an intervention. Talk to your kids, call the cops, flee the city, the state, the country, whatever, or just get this drug dealer out of your life. Sometimes, here's the best thing. From my experience, from what I've learned, if you have an attacker, you have to confront your attacker. If you might be scared, but if you're a man, walk up to that drug dealer, give him a call, say, we need to meet. I just want to talk to you about some stuff, whatever. Just get a hold of them or call them on the phone or something. Talk to them, confront your attackers, call them or better face to face, right? Tell them, look, I don't want you around my family anymore. If I do, there's going to be trouble, right? I'm going to get the cops involved. I have firearms and I'm willing to go to prison to protect my children. You have to say something like that. And if you come around me or my family, if I find one of my kids with drugs, they say they got it from you, there's going to be a lot of trouble. You're going to be in some serious trouble. And find out where this drug dealer lives. Get their license plate, memorize it, write it down, look at it, take a picture, all that stuff. Know everything about them. Kind of make and model car they drive. Know who they are. A lot of parents know who the drug dealers are. They know who after they kill their child already. And the cops sometimes don't do anything. So you have to just give them that warning. Even if it's hollow, even if it's a hollow threat, let them know there's going to be trouble. And if you really want to take it a step further, shoot a bullet in the ground next to their foot. You don't have to hit them. You don't have to just scare them, right? And if they pull out a gun or something, you have to be prepared to kill them. But if you shoot, right, some neighbors might call the cops. They might not. But you could just tell them, look, this is what's happening. And I'm scared for my family's life. And you didn't kill anybody, so you won't get in that much trouble. But if you shoot at the ground, because if you shoot in the air, the bullet's going to come down. The cops will get mad if they find out, because the bullet will come down and it could kill someone. But if you shoot in the ground, there could be a ricochet if it hits a rock that's in the ground or something, but it's less likely. So if you shoot in the ground, go straight down to the ground for the most part, and you're safe, right? Everyone around you is safe. It's just going in the ground. So shoot a warning shot. That's called a warning shot. And just say, look, I'm dead serious. You come around me or my family again, the next bullet's going through your head. And say something like that. So that's, obviously extreme, a little bit breaking the law, gray area, wild, wild west, outlaw, whatever kind of stuff, gangster kind of stuff. You got to protect your family, right? If cops watch this or YouTube watch it, they want to take it down. Well, it's like they'd rather have your children die than you defend them, right? Just standing up. It's called the standing your ground, right? Standing your ground. What does that even mean? Stand your ground, just stand there? Well, you got to do something. It means defend your family. Defend their honor. Defend them with the words you have. Defend them with the firearm, the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. Use your God-given rights to defend yourself and your family and your children, right? So this is war, and there has been war going on, and a lot more people will die. Children, young teenage girls and boys, and young adults, and will die. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins. They're gonna continue to be overdosed with fentanyl. People need to speak out, help each other. Communities need to strengthen. People need to get together and be stronger, have more unity, right? So, that's what I wanted to say. Just understand, you have to be strong. You have to be a warrior, right? You have to be a soldier, and you have to do the things you might be scared to do, right? Confront your attacker, confront them, talk to them, say, hey, I want you around my family, right? There's gonna be trouble, and give them that warning, and then you have to follow through. If they come around your family, you have to follow through with your threat. Otherwise, it could cost you your family's or your children's lives. So keep that in mind. That's what I'll say for now. That's how I'll end this video. Just think about that. There's different ways to interpret that. There's different actions you can take. That's just kind of how I think things through. And now that I'm older, I'm 40 years old now, that's how I feel would be a better way to conduct business and take care of myself. That's the kind of advice that I would give my younger self when I was 20 years old, when I was using heavily. So that's it. Stay safe, stay clean, keep your nose clean, stay healthy, take care, and Semper Fi.